After rereading Super's manga and seeing the disgusting treatment they've given my glorious king, today I wanted to break down where it all went really wrong with Piccolo's character within the Dragon Ball series. Because from the moment he was born, he was on a generational run, if we're being honest. From being the main villain of the final arc in original Dragon Ball to helping Goku fight Raditz at the beginning of Z and ending up as Gohan's mentor figure, Piccolo's development as one of the main Z fighters is one of the best aspects we get to see within DBZ period. We'd see Piccolo befriend Gohan, and this allows him to become almost human in his own way, leading into him giving his life to save Gohan against the Saiyans. And then we see Bro go to Namek, his actual home planet, and discover that he's not just some demon, but rather comes from a race of aliens also known as the Namekians. After training with King Kai and even being sent to his home world during the climax of the arc, we'd see him find another Namekian who not only fought Frieza, but pretty much dedicated his existence to protecting someone. Nail would recognize and acknowledge Piccolo's strength, saying how the two together could avenge the Namekian race and fight Frieza, but Piccolo doesn't really want to do this as he has his own personal reasons for fighting Frieza. He even made sure before going into the fusion that Nail wasn't going to be like another personality of his or something. Despite embracing and becoming one with his heritage, so to speak, he still retains his own goals of being a fighter and wanting to protect the ones he personally cares about. Which is what makes Piccolo arriving on Namek and pressing second form Frieza to me all the more satisfying, because not only is Frieza the one dude who has been a step ahead of everyone the entire arc, finally getting caught lacking, but it's from one of the last remaining warriors of the race he nearly wiped out completely. For the first time in Frieza's life, he doesn't feel superior to everybody, and it's from the one race he tried making himself superior to. And we'd see later on in the fight, Piccolo would stall time for the Spirit Bomb, along with being the first person that Frieza shoots, showing that he for sure got under his skin to some degree. Even if Frieza didn't want to admit it, a low-life Namekian did nearly kill him and was a big help in almost dying again. Now, after this, Piccolo does have a decision to either go with the Namekians or stay on Earth, but he would ultimately decide to stay on Earth, showing that he's fully embraced his good side, and we'd see him being pretty much the strongest warrior on Earth that isn't Vegeta until Mecha Frieza and Trunks arrive. Piccolo would be the first one to hear about the androids, leading into him telling the group to lock him before then training with Goku and Gohan for 3 years straight. And not just with any Goku, Super Saiyan Goku. This, in my opinion, is a good thing. However, Piccolo by this point begins to feel a little dumb. I don't know why it's in this arc specifically, but bro gets caught lacking by Jiro twice and somehow lets him escape and release the androids despite being significantly stronger than him. I get it, you gotta get the main villains in here, but the fact that Piccolo is pretty much the main one responsible aside from Vegeta, you see where I'm going with this. It makes Piccolo look a lot dumber than he actually is, but we at least see Piccolo feeling responsible for playing with this food and letting the androids escape, which would lead into my personal favorite moment of the character and one of the highlights of the whole series for me, that being Piccolo's confrontation with Kami. Piccolo, who was once recognized as pure evil by Kami, is now the same one to tell Kami that he's terrible at doing his job, and currently they have no other choice other than to fuse in order to now take down this mysterious threat in Ginger Town. Kami comes to accept this, with Piccolo merging with his other half, becoming neither Kami nor Piccolo. After this, we'd see him discover Cell, who is a bio-android who has the DNA of everyone that Piccolo knows, pretty much. I do think for his character, it's really cool that this new whole version of himself is now fighting someone who's more so similar to how he would have been in the past. But what I dislike is the fact that Piccolo deliberately lets his energy get stolen so Cell can give exposition and escape just barely. Now, at least with Jiro, we have not only Bulma coming in and Piccolo getting his energy absorbed, and the first time he genuinely did get caught off guard. So, you know what? Even though I find these to be stupid moments for Piccolo, he did redeem himself by confronting with Kami and absorbing Kami. But why didn't you just kill Cell at this point? Why do you need to know so bad who he is? We know from Kami that he's a huge threat, so why didn't you just... Kami, why didn't you just, like, come in and just tell Piccolo to finish him off? Hey. And because of this, Piccolo, when he's stalling against the androids, giving us one of the cleanest fights that is Piccolo versus Android 17, by the way, he'd fight Cell once again, who's now way stronger, and waited for Piccolo to wear himself down. And this leads into bro almost dying, which is the result of the consequences of his own actions. Now, you guys may be saying, oh, Tyler, isn't this a good thing because, you know, it actually came back to bite him? No, it doesn't, because the fact that he could have literally ended this entire arc just completely negates this. And for some reason, after this point, he just feels like he really isn't included anymore. Like, I get it, Piccolo isn't a Saiyan, and at this point, they're getting forms stronger than Super Saiyan, but the fact that Piccolo already surpassed that tier without any transformations? or any days in the time chamber, mind you. Like, bro, just use the full 2 days. You would have been great. You probably would have surpassed Trunks. Like, the fact that Piccolo did not use this extra day and is pretty much keeping up with the Cell JRs just as well as Vegeta and Trunks and helping the weaker Z fighters handle them. You gotta give credit where credit is due, but bro, just go in for another 24 hours. Piccolo, though, doesn't feel completely wasted at the end because he is the one who takes charge in aiding Gohan against Cell, as he never wanted him to be in this position in the first place. And although Goku in general was ultimately in the right for letting Gohan go Super Saiyan 2 because it was either him or the universe, Piccolo is not at all wrong for saying what he did, and he clearly has a better understanding of Gohan than his father, since that's his first friend and they've unironically spent a lot of their years as friends. Gohan is the one who wanted to help Piccolo even when his father told him not to, so it is clear that they both are very close and don't want one another getting hurt. Piccolo pretty much saw his ex-mortal enemy put his best friend as the last hope of the universe. Think of it from that perspective. Although the Cell Saga had some shaky moments for Piccolo, I think ultimately it was probably the best stuff we've gotten for the character. And after the Cell Saga, it really does seem like there isn't much for Piccolo to do, but I mean, hey, there's still one more big saga to conclude Dragon Ball Z plus a whole other series to go through, so, you know, we'll have some good stuff for him, right? Right? Is this thing on? If I told young Learn before I finished Z what they did to my glorious Green King, younger me would have been in shambles. As we know, the Buu Saga was mainly a way for the next generation to be pushed, while somehow Goku by the end became the one person needed to save the day. Already going into the arc conceptually, we already are kind of in a confusing direction. Now, as for Piccolo specifically, his contribution to these plot lines are teaching Trunks and Goten the fusion dance, getting absorbed by Buu and giving Goku energy. Oh, and before that, he walked around the time chamber for a long time. Piccolo in the beginning of the Buu Arc admits inferiority to Shin, which conceptually sounds fire because it's pretty much the god of Earth now submitting to the Supreme Kais. Now, like I said, conceptually this sounds amazing, however, it's not so amazing when you find out that every single Supreme Kai is bitchmade, which makes Piccolo look even worse. He then gets spat on by Dabura only to do nothing until Buu kills him, which then he and Vegeta have a pretty great one-on-one interaction that's one of the only ones they ever really get in the series. And then right after, Piccolo immediately shits himself when Buu regenerates, and his first instinct is to run and get 2 8-year-olds to do the job for him. Mind you, this is before the fusion dance is mentioned, so he believes that yes, Trunks and Goten, the fucker who can barely fly, has a better chance of beating Buu than himself. Mind you, Piccolo had 7 full years to train and could have also used the extra day in the time chamber. All Piccolo ever does is train. How is he one of the weaker Z fighters now? Even Tien had a better feat than anything Piccolo did in the entire arc, and I'm not even exaggerating when I say that. And the entire time he's just like, oh, Gotenks, oh, Gohan, don't get absorbed, don't get cocky. And what happens to Piccolo? I'm done. I don't want to talk about the Buu Saga anymore. And now we enter Super, aka the actual downfall of my GOAT. If the Buu Saga didn't make it clear any enough that Piccolo fell off, trust me, Super reminds you that he definitely did. In Battle of Gods, he probably gets the most disrespected against Beerus, getting knocked out by chopsticks. As a Piccolo fan, this clip still haunts me to this day. I have never seen the end of this. We then move on to the next arc, which is arguably the worst arc in all of Dragon Ball, aka Resurrection of F. Piccolo is recognized as strong for 5 seconds by Krillin, and then gets bullied by Taguma, and has to die for Gohan once again to push his character. This death, unlike the first time, does nothing for the character except give Gohan motivation to train, which he then loses again, so in hindsight, it's really a fake death to get fans shocked or emotional, but it just feels completely soulless and only disrespects the character. This is by far the worst death in Dragon Ball, and the fact that it's fucking Piccolo? It gets worse too when you consider in the next arc where it's supposed to show off unique fighters of the other universes and give other characters like Buu and Piccolo to shine. Piccolo ends up using his strongest technique to take out an opponent Goku already weakened. It would have actually been cool for Piccolo to beat Frost and essentially not play with his food like how he did on Namek and learn from his previous lessons, but he just loses and it's a way for Vegeta to look cool. Which doesn't even matter anyway, because then Hit beats him up and then Goku looks cool by the end of the arc! But guys, it's okay, because in the next arc they don't even bother getting Piccolo involved because they don't want to disrespect my GOAT. And really, before the Tournament of Power, we just see him as a way for Gohan to get back up, which I don't really mind. but I think this training is kind of too little too late and should have probably happened in between the Goku Black and ROF saga. But you know what? Hey, Piccolo's strong now, Gohan stronger. He's not gonna be a loser now, right? Right? Wrong. Bro gets his fucking arm sniped off and is really used as a way to show how much Gohan has grown specifically throughout pretty much the first half of the tournament. The only genuine good scene that we get with Piccolo in the Tournament of Power is when he's fighting the Universe 6 Namekians, who I don't even remember the names of. He sees when he's fighting them that there's something off about them, and it's revealed that these guys actually absorb pretty much all of planet Namek in order to become this strong. Piccolo would then get overwhelmed, and as it seems like it's over, we see Kami and Nail both point out to Piccolo, which shows Gohan now being the one in front of the attack. Piccolo saw Gohan pretty much grow up and was always there to defend and protect him, and Gohan is now a fighter capable of protecting his friend now, which leads to him and Piccolo working together to beat the Namekians. Piccolo and Gohan were essential in taking down these two Namekians, and honestly, it feels like a well-earned W for my GOAT. It just sucks because a few episodes later, he somehow gets caught off guard by a fucking bug. And mind you, how does this happen? Well, Piccolo tried hitting him instead of using an explosive wave, which he did with an enemy before that. And guess what? How did they beat the guy that beat Piccolo? Oh, Android 17 puts his hair behind his ear and he can, like, super hear the bug. Did we forget that Piccolo had super hearing, bro? Anyway, Super ends by this point, and then we get the Broly movie, which is just all about the Saiyans, so his role in Broly is really nothing crazy, but I am happy he is the one to teach Vegeta and Goku the dance, but it still doesn't excuse what happened before, so I'm still upset. And in the Moro arc, he does play his part in the invasion, I guess, but we still have him, despite being really smart, saying nonsense like, Vegeta never underestimates his opponents. How could this happen? And this panel of him taking his own move was just not necessary, bro. Come on. And now we have, lastly, the superhero arc because Piccolo does nothing in Granola. Although I have my own opinions on the direction of the arc and story itself, I will say everything that I have positive to say about this arc is with Piccolo's characterization. I like the symbolism with his transformation sequence. I like how his power-up comes from the dragon, a being that his other half essentially created, but I will also say Piccolo becoming this strong with a simple wish is kind of lame in retrospect. It makes it seem like they just threw Piccolo in with the others because they were tired of me complaining, which, hey, at least they got the message. The movie originally was going to be about Piccolo too, which I would have really been interested to see that first draft of superhero, but of course he has to get beat up and Gohan has to get a new transformation because money. Despite being one of the strongest characters in Z, near the end and especially with the sequel series, they just did not really know what to do with my boy anymore. And it's really upsetting because I feel like his characterization really peaked at the Cell games. And a general consensus within the Dragon Ball community is that the series could have ended at Cell, and honestly I do agree. It really does feel like Toriyama wanted to wrap up most plotlines and push Gohan forward, which is why the Kami and Piccolo stuff happened here. But due to the switch up, this resulted in Toriyama's favorite character getting cooked by the plot, and I just hope going forward he isn't used as a way for other characters to look cool.